Hi, and welcome to the Day Trading for Beginners podcast. This is episode 32, and this is the season 1 finale. So we have started this journey in January 2024. We are at the end of June here. We've done 6 months. And what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to do a quick recap of what we've covered in this first 6 months. I'm going to share some useful resources, and I'm going to share some personal thoughts on how this journey has gone for me. And we're going to do an update for season 2. So from my understanding, podcasts sort of work well if you split them up into seasons, and this sort of works out well for my personal schedule as well. So the podcast is going to be back live September 2nd. I think that's the first Monday of September. And for July and August, we will be taking a break, but I'm going to update you what I'm personally going to be doing over the next 2 months and what season 2 is going to be all about. But what we want to do in this episode is do a recap of these first 6 months. And what I would recommend that everyone does, if you have not already, is download the 6-month blueprint. So that's going to outline every single thing that I've done. And actually right now I have an updated version that just went live that has all the links to all the content that I've created. And it has links to the free courses on our community on School. And that has all the resources that I've personally used to study all the material over the first 6 months. So you can find that blueprint in the show notes, or you can go to stokestrades.com/blueprint. Again, that's completely free, and it gives all the steps that I've gone through over the first 6 months, and it has links to all different resources, and everything is 100% free. So I would recommend that you download that. And if you do, you will always get updated with new versions that come out. So what we want to do is do a reflection on what we've sort of done in this first 6 months. So I'm going to jump over to the actual blueprint. I'm going to reference this for this podcast. And again, I would recommend that you go and download your own copy. So for the last 6 months, basically, I've split it up into 4 steps. And these 4 steps took me the last 6 months to complete. And, personally, I worked for a few hours during the week and mainly on the weekend. So I'm going to share my schedule with you just so you can perhaps relate to it a little bit and you can sort of understand, where I am in terms of my understanding based on the amount of work I was able to put in. So, you might be able to do all these 4 steps in 6 weeks, or, it might take you a full year. Everyone's schedule is different and everyone's, knowledge base is different as well. So it doesn't really matter how long it takes you. However, these seem to be the most important steps that beginners should tackle first. And again, for my personal schedule, in January 2024, when we started this, sort of not the greatest timing in terms of, schedule and commitments. I was at home sort of doing daddy daycare with an 18-month-old. He's going to be 2 next week. But it just worked out for our family schedule that I was at home with the little guy while my wife finished work. She's now going to be off on mat leave because we're having another baby in September. But, my schedule was very limited. So I maybe worked a little bit when he napped during the day. He had preschool for a few days a week, but, he wasn't there for that long. And then during the night, I was, quite tired. So I did a lot of work over the weekend. So I'm just sharing that because if you're currently working, 9 to 5, you have, family of your own that you're taking care of. Maybe you have several kids at home. You'll understand that there's not a lot of time in the week to dedicate to learning something new like this. Now, perhaps, you don't have any of these commitments. You're younger, and I would recommend that you just grind out and do as much work as you can now before you, get a little older and have other commitments. But if you do have these other commitments, you really need to, dedicate some time during the week to studying this. And I was able to do that sort of on the weekends. And I got through this 6 months. I've sort of learned this stuff at more of an introductory type of level. So what this means for me personally is that I plan to study more over the next 2 months. This summer, while my wife is off, I'll have more time and I can kind of refresh a lot of what we're going to cover, what I've covered in the first 6 months. So I'm going to be going over options in greater detail and going over technical analysis in greater detail. But again, the point is here everyone has different schedules. You might, have limited time during the week or, a few hours on the weekend. You really need to commit and dedicate that time to focusing on that. And it just means that, your progression might just take a little bit longer. So if it's taken, me 6 months to do this at an introductory level, I think you can get there based on, my schedule and the amount of work I was able to do. If you have more time, you can, get there even quicker, or you can learn this stuff at just such a higher type of level. So again, I've gone through this and I sort of know the basics at an introductory level. You can do the same thing over the first 6 months, but maybe you've mastered options and you've really mastered technical analysis to the point where you're ready to go study a strategy. So again, I just wanted to share that, if you're struggling with your schedule, just commit some hours every week to doing this. And over the next 6 months, over the next year, you're going to be better off and you can just kind of chip away at learning this. So again, I think for most people, you can get through this material in 6 months. What is going to differ is just going to be your level of understanding when you come through this. Again, I've learned this at an introductory level. I'm going to study more over the summer, but if you can dedicate, more time and more hours, then you're just going to be better prepared for the next phase of the journey. So I spent the first 2 months studying some stock market basics and setting up my brokerage account. Months 3 and 4 were dedicated to options. And then months 5 and 6 were dedicated to technical analysis. And technical analysis is really an essential step. It's something that's really important that you're going to have to just spend a lot of time on. So in terms of resources that I've used for this first 6 months, it's really the first 6 months, it's a learning and studying phase. And even if you have so much more time, you can just study this stuff so much better and so much more thoroughly before you move on to the strategy phase. But, apart from books, you can find a lot of information for free online. So the only, resources that I personally bought were some textbooks, and I've listed them in the blueprint. I'm going to talk about them quickly here. And then the other resource that I signed up for was a free account with TradingView. So TradingView, it's a charting software. It allows beginners to sort of look at charts, draw trend lines, use technical indicators as well. So it's a great tool when you're learning technical analysis. And for me personally, I plan to use this charting software together with my brokerage account when I do make real trades. Depending on what brokerage account you use, you might not actually end up using TradingView, or you might. It's very popular. It's worth looking into. It's worth looking into and just setting up a free account so you can learn, you can practice with it, and then perhaps maybe in the future you use some other tool, or you just use the charting software that comes with your brokerage account. But for me personally, I'm going to use TradingView, and I would recommend that you just sign up for a free account. So that's the software that I use. In terms of books, I did buy 2 textbooks. The first one was Technical Analysis of the Financial Markets. It's been recommended many, many times over the web. If you do any sort of searching of technical analysis and day trading, it's a great textbook. I personally also bought the study guide and the audiobook version of this, and it's something I'm going to study more in the next few months. So I would recommend that book. A lot of people that I've spoken to that have purchased this book and gone through it, a lot of them report back that it's quite easy to read, easier than they expected. And that's sort of what I noticed as well. So again, all the links to all these books will be found and all the resources will be found in the show notes and within the 6-month blueprint as well. The other textbook that I bought was Options as a Strategic Investment. So that's a detailed textbook about options. I personally plan to study and learn options and trade options. You certainly do not need to though. And then the other book that I bought and recommend is Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. This is a highly recommended book on the mental side of trading. It's recommended by many successful traders, and I personally bought the audiobook version. So those are 3 books. Those are 3 resources that you might consider also getting. In terms of other, educational resources, everything else you can sort of find online. I would not recommend that you really buy any courses on this stuff. I personally purchased a Udemy course on technical analysis, and it was not worth it. That textbook is all you need, or there's just free YouTube videos or just free educational websites about all the stuff that you need to study in the first 6 months. So that would be my recommendation. Apart from TradingView and those textbooks, I don't think you really need anything else. Now, personally, I do use some AI tools. So, ChatGPT and Grok from X. There's another tool called Claude. They are really, really good at enhancing my studying. So I find them really helpful for asking questions, getting clarifications on topics and this sort of thing. So, if you want to use these tools, many of them have free options and then some have paid options as well. I would recommend that you kind of tinker with some of these tools. I think they're great for learning as well. So again, during this first 6 months, this first phase, you really don't need to buy anything other than those textbooks if you want them. That's just my personal opinion. I think you can find everything else for free online. So don't go and buy a course on trading strategy. You don't need that right now. You need to study, build a good foundation of knowledge before, looking into any trading strategy. So that would be my recommendation. If you were to just start now, or if you've sort of gone through this and, you need to refresh on a few things, you really need to study in this first 6 months. That's been my take and my personal kind of thought after going through these first 6 months. So in terms of what we actually studied, let's get into that right now. The first step that I personally take, which is we labeled as step 1 here, is to study and review some stock market basics. So it's important that you get familiar with some of the basics of the stock market. And, this is going to depend on your current knowledge. You might actually need to not do this. If you've got a finance degree or you've studied economics at university, you might be really familiar with this stuff. You don't need to do it. But, if you're a pure beginner or you're interested in this and you don't really have that great of a background, I know a lot of people have started doing day trading or looking into doing this, and they know a little bit. They might have, they might own a few stocks, but they really don't have a lot of good knowledge. Then you might need to spend even more time on the stock market basics. So for me personally, what I covered was what stocks are. We covered what bonds are, what ETFs are, so exchange traded funds. We reviewed what commodities were, what futures are, and then we talked about the Forex market, and we specifically had an episode and videos on short selling. So that for me was enough. You might again need to study this stuff more, and the blueprint has links to all of the content that I'm listing here in this first step, all of the content we've produced through videos, podcasts, and then in our school group, we have a course on stock market basics, and we share more resources that I personally used again, and everything is free. So that's stock market basics. That's what I studied in sort of the first month. And then step 2 was to choose a broker. So for this step, you're going to want to open up your brokerage account, activate a paper trading account. So that's really, really important that you choose a brokerage account that allows you to paper trade. You're going to want to trade in a paper account for 6 months, a year before you move on to real money. You want to be profitable for several months with whatever trading strategy you are using. So you need a paper trading account. So we've got a guide on choosing brokerages. There's many of them out there. Personally, I went with Interactive Brokers. That worked out best for me, being that I'm in Canada. And I set up a paper trading account. We've got all tutorials on that as well. And then you're going to want to get familiar with stock market order types. And you want to do this for stocks. And if you do options, you want to do this for options as well. But you want to understand what, a market order is, a limit order is, what the stop orders are. And there's bracket orders where you set up a profit taking order and then a stop loss order if the trade goes wrong on you and so on. So we covered all of that in that section as well. And that was the first 2 months of our journey. So for months 3 and 4, we studied options. Now, studying options is optional because not every trading strategy uses options. However, personally, I feel I am going to be trading with them. I like the idea of options. And the strategy that I'm first going to follow is from the Real Day Trading Reddit group and their wiki that they've published. And they use options, I believe. So I want to study options. I want to learn options. And that's why I studied them in months 3 and 4. Options are great, especially if you're going to start trading with a low financial account, because they're good at you growing a smaller account. You can use leverage with options. Whereas, if you have a lot of finance, or if you have a larger account, you can buy stock and sort of get the same benefits because you're trading with such larger amounts. But with smaller amounts, options could be beneficial for you. So something to consider. Again, I'm interested and I want to learn more about them and I want to trade them. So we talked about, what options are. We talked about selling options prices, how they're formed, the options Greeks, which are important, and then option spread. So again, personally, with the amount of time that I dedicated to this, I know this stuff at an introductory level, but I'm going to study more about options over the next few months. And then months 5 and 6, which is step 4 in the blueprint, we study technical analysis. Now, no matter what day trading strategy you end up using, you're going to want to get really well familiar, or you're going to want to master technical analysis to a certain degree. So we, every day trading strategy incorporates technical analysis. And what we covered over the last several weeks, we talked about the difference between technical and fundamental analysis. We talked about candlestick charts, how to read them, trend lines, support and resistance. We talked briefly about some technical indicators, and then volume, chart patterns, and Elliott wave theory. So there are a lot of things that we didn't cover as well. So there's a lot of other technical indicators. We didn't cover every single one of them, and we didn't cover any candlestick patterns. So those are, what patterns that the candlesticks are doing. That's a very visual sort of exercise and something that I plan to do in the future. So technical analysis, again, it's very important. In the blueprint, I've got a updated resource page that sort of lists all of the content related to technical analysis that I studied. So that's a useful link. And again, I'll share that in the show notes below. But technical analysis, I think, is something that you will really want to study. And that's why that textbook is recommended. It's a great first sort of guide for that. And then whatever day trading strategy you end up sort of pursuing, some area of technical analysis might be more important than others. So there might be some indicators that a certain strategy uses over another, and so on. So technical analysis, I think it's something that we're going to continue to learn over the next coming years. You're not going to master this in a couple months, but it's something you really, really do need to get a good foundation on before you even think about making any trades in your paper trading account or looking into any sort of strategy. You need to know some technical analysis basics at the very minimum. So that's an important step. So that sort of wrapped up the first 6 months. So, after going through this, what I recommend in terms of this blueprint and what I've done over the last 6 months, documenting this, it should just be used as a roadmap for starting your journey towards becoming a full-time day trader. So there's going to be concepts where you're going to need to access obviously more resources than just the podcast or some of the videos that I've created. And that's where the recommended textbooks are a good place to start, or just more free resources online. And again, I've listed more resources that I personally found useful in our community on School. So all the courses that we have up there that are all free have a list of resources that I personally use while I was studying this. But you can find all those resources really for free. So there's things that you can do, such as free websites. There's accounts on X that are useful. There's obviously YouTube channels and videos and so on. So there's a lot of good free information on the web out there that's going to help you enhance. That's going to help you understand the concepts to a better degree that I explain them in these podcasts and in the video. So again, the podcasts and the blueprint are a roadmap and a guide on things you should study, but you will need to go and find additional resources to really get a full understanding of everything that we've talked about over the last 6 months. So that's sort of what I'm trying to say, is that the content that I've created is probably not enough for you to master this stuff. A lot of it is an introductory type of level, and you will want to go access for more resources to fully understand this stuff at a higher level, at a level that's needed in terms of actually trading. So that's sort of what I tried to explain there. In terms of time, we talked a little bit about this. Should this take you 6 months, well, you certainly don't want to get stuck in analysis paralysis. So you don't want to get stuck studying every single aspect of technical analysis, for example, and the general market before you kind of get to the next phase where you're going to investigate and look into a strategy. So, if you have a lot of time to study, you can certainly get through this material in maybe less than 6 months. But, some people, won't be able to master all this information in less than 6 months. Again, personally, I plan on going over the study guides of both of those textbooks, learning more about the ins and outs of TradingView before I enter the next phase of my journey. And that's just based on, my personal journey over the last 6 months. So only you will really know if you're ready and if you're comfortable to move on to, quote, the next phase. So I thought this was a good time to also share this quote from the founder of the Real Day Trading Reddit group that we're kind of loosely following along. It's worth considering this quote. I'm sharing it just to kind of give some realistic expectations. And again, this quote is coming from someone who day trades super successfully, posts all his trades on X, completely transparent, and is just super successful. And he's seen a lot of people come through trying to learn how to become day traders. So I'll share what he wrote again, and what he seems to be saying quite often. It takes a minimum of 2 years of training to get to the point where you can expect to see a consistent profit from trading. For many, that is going to be 3 to 4 years as most do not have the time to dedicate 40 plus hours a week that you'll need to spend learning this the right way. So there are no shortcuts. Anyone who claims otherwise is lying and most likely trying to scam you out of money. It's hard. It's very hard, but it is also a learnable skill. Follow the steps, stick with it, be patient, and remember the goal, financial independence. So again, that's a super successful person, just kind of helping us become realistic about our expectations of becoming a profitable trader. It's hard, but it's definitely doable. It's a learnable skill. Financial independence is achievable through this, but it's going to take you more than 6 months. It's going to take you, several years, especially for those of us who can't study 40 hours a week because we have other commitment. It's just going to take you longer, but it's important to understand that so you have a good mental mindset going into this, and just knowing that, you're not going to be profitable in a few short years. It's just going to take you more time. So I thought, it's always worth sharing some good perspective on that, just to keep everything honest and, sort of transparent and so on. So in terms of, the next phase, originally, when I first wrote the 6-month blueprint, I did plan on also setting up a trading journal and tracking trades in my paper trading account. However, I've not done any paper trading in the first 6 months. I've just been studying. So that's going to be pushed on to the next phase. Again, what I plan to do now over the next 2 months is study both of those textbooks that I referenced here and complete their study guides. So I want to really just fully understand technical analysis at a better level and options at a better level before moving on to studying a strategy. And then I also plan to really master TradingView. So I'm going to create a walkthrough tutorial on it and share that in the school group, and just really get familiar with that charting tool, learning how to use, all the different indicators, the different screens, and just navigating around that tool. That's something that, you're going to be using to actually make real trades. You really want to master that tool and your dashboard in your brokerage account. So once that's done, then basically it's time to look into a day trading strategy. So to start, and I'm hoping that in season 2, we get to actually talk about this strategy. The one that I'm going to be first learning and investigating is from the wiki, from the Real Day Trading Reddit group, their wiki, their strategy. So that is another sort of, textbook or a big document that I plan to read over the next 2 months as well. So that's something that I'm going to do over the next 2 months, study those study guides, those textbooks, and then look into the strategy from the wiki, from the Real Day Trading Reddit group. Now, for me, after going through those 6 months, You might have certain things that jumped out at you that you like, that you might want to pursue, like the Forex market. Maybe trading currencies is something you want to do, or you might really be into commodities in the futures market. For me, it was sort of stocks and options. And then I really did like the idea of this Elliott wave theory that we covered when we were doing technical analysis. So that's a concept that I find really interesting. I can kind of see myself getting into that. So that's something that I also maybe in the future plan to maybe incorporate into my strategy moving forward. So no matter what, strategy you focus on, the material in this blueprint, I think is important to understand first. It's a first guide for beginners. And again, no matter what you do, you need some level of technical analysis. I think a lot of people really don't understand how important that is. So that's really an important thing to study. And again, that's 6 months. No matter how quickly you get through the material that I've shared, it's really a study phase. So again, the TLDR version here, review some stock market basics, choose an online broker, set up a paper trading account, learn how to buy and sell stocks, all the different types of orders, study options if you want, and then study technical analysis. And that's what we've done over the last 6 months. Next 2 months, I plan to do this and sort of sharpen up on everything we've done. And then in September, we're going to start season 2, where we're going to, discuss more about technical analysis, more about options perhaps. And then eventually in that season, I hope to start talking about a real day trading strategy and actually talking more about paper trading in my paper trading account as well. So thanks so much for listening. I would recommend that you go download that blueprint, stokestrades.com/blueprint. I'm going to list any important links in the show notes below here. And also consider coming over and joining our group on School. I think we're getting, a few hundred people now. We're getting more people sharing and talking, introducing themselves, which is great. Eventually, I think that's going to be a great resource. It has a search button feature where you can literally search up anything and you can see everyone's posts on that. So if people, share more information about certain technical tools and so on, that's going to be a really good resource, I think, in the future. For me, that helped me really stay consistent over the last 6 months because, I tried to post every Monday, everything that I've learned over the last week. I did that every single week. And it was something that I just couldn't miss. So that really helped me stay on track and learn something every week for the past 6 months. So, if you're struggling with accountability, or if you need an accountability partner, or you're struggling with staying committed to this because you might have a tough schedule, consider joining the group and just saying, hey, welcome to the group, introduce yourself and just saying, every week I'm going to post what I'm learning. And then in the next 6 months, you will be in such a better position in terms of the knowledge that you have, which is going to help you on this journey of becoming a day trader. So again, thanks so much for listening. Subscribe to the podcast. You can find all the show notes below, and we will talk again in September. September 2nd is the date I have written down for the first episode of season 2 of the Day Trading for Beginners podcast. So thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you very soon.